During the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Welcome to Meet the Experts with Mike Velarde. Join us each week as we bring you expert opinions on different subjects ranging from medical to political and community to economy. We answer all of your questions live. Have a question? Call into the show at 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now to Mike.
Welcome to tonight's show. We have a great show for you. We're going to be talking about law enforcement. As you've seen, crime has been skyrocketing all over the country, and I have such a special guest, Mr. Mike Gaga, who's running for Palm Beach County Sheriff. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Meet the Experts.
Thank you.
You are an amazing man. You have over 50 years of law enforcement experience, and I want you to tell our audience about you, your plan when you become sheriff, and what would you do to make crime, well, we know here it's not too bad to begin with, but what would you do to lessen crime in the area?
Okay. Well, to start out with, I was raised on a dairy farm on the Illinois-Wisconsin state line.
Okay.
I was used to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning when I was in the second grade, worked till I go to school, and then worked when I got home till about 8 o'clock. And it was a good life. It gave me a work ethic, and I thank my father for that. Elmer, you did well teaching me those things. But it was a little tumultuous, and there was some problems. I graduated from high school, and 2 weeks after I graduated, I left home and started out on my own. So got a job in a factory and got a better job and a better job. I got drafted, went away in July of '67, came back, was working for a finance company, hated it, and another guy and I, he had family in Florida, and he said, let's go to Florida.
Cool.
And I had in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a police officer. JFK appeared at a airport, landed at an airport, and they took some of our school members, and I was one of them, to listen to him give a talk. And then years later, I'm sitting in English class when they came across the loudspeaker and announced his assassination.
Wow.
I had wanted to be either a Lutheran minister and or a eye surgeon. And then I wanted to become a policeman and a Secret Serviceman. But I couldn't because I didn't have any college.
Right.
And my dad wouldn't send me. He didn't believe in college. So I went off and I ended up in Florida and met guys in the sheriff's office. And they encouraged me to put in an application. I did, and then they asked me to work some undercover narcotics because I looked very young. I was like 22, but I looked like I was about 17 at the time. So, you know, I did that. We worked into an organized crime ring, delivering football betting cards, and worked my way into a halfway house that were selling drugs out of the halfway house. And those places were busted. And I got hired full-time in January 1971.
Wow.
And started on the road, and then the rest is history. I just worked myself up, different positions, ended up as chief deputy. So.
Well, not only with the chief deputy, but I understand from talking to some people that you had worked with that you started some tremendous programs, some not only community policing, but programs to help the law enforcement officer that's involved in a shooting or a traumatic experience. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. One of the reasons I left home is my parents, who were wonderful people, but they were alcoholics. And so I lived in that, and I thought that I didn't ever want to be in that situation again. So I had a propensity for helping others that were in that position. So I got active in different programs, and people helped me when I was first down here, took me in, helped me, and I never forgot that. So I saw others who had problems, and I said, well, you know, I can help you. And I joined some recovery program board of directors, worked with them, some youth programs. I oversaw a junior deputy program for a while. But then in the 80s, I had an opportunity to go to Southern Police Institute. And I was doing things that were community-oriented policing related. I just didn't have words for them or an explanation.
Right.
I didn't have the foundation. That school, George Keller and Wilson, who wrote the book on community policing, Keller came in and gave a presentation. And man, I said, where has this been? You know, so I came back and I went to Sheriff Willey at the time and said, there was problems in some housing projects. And I said, you know what, Sheriff, give me a chance. I think I can make a difference. So he gave me carte blanche and we went into the first housing project, started community policing and cleaned that one up. It was, at the time, thought to be the leading crack cocaine distribution spot in Palm Beach County.
Wow.
Turned that around. Got rid of the drug dealers who were using the kids to sell drugs and you know, abusing young girls, 13, 14-year-old girls. So got rid of all those guys and brought in after school programs, brought in athletic programs, you know, just did those kind of things. And then we went from that place and we continued to build in other neighborhoods and we ended up with 27 neighborhoods with community policing in it.
Wow.
We started a PAL boxing program. One of my deputies was a boxing enthusiast. He says, Mike, can I start this program? And I said, absolutely.
Right, that's great.
So we hung a boxing bag off a tree limb. And then we went from a tree limb to a little warehouse, and then it just grew and grew and grew. So 27 neighborhoods. And I've always had some sensitivity to the mental health issues as well. So I went back to school and I obtained a master's in social work. And that, again, I did a lot of reading before that, but that gave me the foundation to step away from. So I served on a bunch of community boards like Families First of Palm Beach County that works with early childhood and you know, mothers who need a lot of support. And we started building partnerships. We built partnerships with the county. We built road and bridges. We code enforcement. We went into those neighborhoods. Another program I'm very proud of, it was the graffiti unit. I noticed we had graffiti everywhere, gang graffiti. And I learned a long time ago, if you get graffiti, cover it up right away.
Right.
You know, and they'll come back the next day, put it up again. Well, we'll cover it up again.
Right.
Well, about the third time, I have somebody sitting there watching them.
Exactly.
And so when we arrest them, then guess what?
Right. You got to
Your community service is going to be covering up graffiti. So,
Right.
you know, so we ended up with 2 deputies, and they would pick up inmates every day, Monday through Friday, and we would clean up. On the weekends, I had, when I was a captain of the South County area, before there was 3 districts, there was only 1 from Lantana to Broward. I would go in on a Saturday, pick up inmates as a captain, and bring them out. They were weekenders, and they needed community service, and I would take them out, and we'd do cleanups in some of the neighborhoods.
Nice.
So, you know, it was kind of interesting. There would be, on the border of our 2 districts, the south side would be all clean, and then the north side would. So, but, you know, it was a little challenge.
Right.
But those are the things I believed in.
Well, it sounds like you've accomplished a lot. Now, how long were you with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office?
Well, I did 33 years to the day. My
Okay.
initial start date, January 29th, 1971. I retired January 29th, 2004, with 33 years to the day. 3 days later, because of all the work I did in housing, I went to Palm Beach County Housing, offered me a position, so I worked with them.
We got to go to a hard break.
Okay.
When we come back, you're going to tell us about that.
Okay.
We'll be back
right.
in just a minute.
This message was brought to you by Warburg Equities and the Cricken Law Trust.
Hi, I'm Adam.
an associate with the Cricken Law Trust. We're here to help you process money owed to you through the CARES Act. If your business employed 10 or more people and maintained payroll taxes through the 2021 shutdown, the Cricken Law Trust can help you get your money back. This money is yours, but if you don't apply now, you might lose this opportunity and it'll be gone forever. Contact us now. Go to www.my123erc.com. Now that's www.my123erc.com.
Tax alert! Tax alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Velati on the phone and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Velarde, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
You've been watching Meet the Experts with Mike Velarde. If you have any questions, call in at 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back. We're back with Mike. Mike, continue telling us about your experience and what you've done, and then we'll take some calls. If people want to call in, we'll give you an opportunity to speak to the public.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, you know,
You just left off. You 33 years.
right.
And then you were about to. You could take another job after that in 2004, right?
So I also when I retired, I was the major of all investigative services.
Wow.
And there were families that had open homicide cases, family members that had been murdered, and it hadn't been solved yet. So I promised the families that I would continue the work. So Barry Krischer, who was the state attorney at the time, said, you know what, you can come in. I volunteered. I couldn't get paid because of the state retirement system.
Right.
But I went in and I volunteered and I continued the work on 2 of those homicide cases.
Wow.
And they were subsequently cleared over time. Some of the things I did and some of the guys that worked at the department that I worked hand in hand with, we had some phenomenal investigators, Bill Springer, Pat Page
Nice.
McCann, another cold case homicide.
Right.
So fabulous. Working with them, those cases were solved.
So how many years did you spend doing that?
Just one.
Oh, just one. Okay.
And then Rick Bradshaw and I, Ed Bielik had been the sheriff at the time.
Right.
And, I was considering a run.
Right.
And Rick Bradshaw was considering a run. Well, the sheriff then had some problems, and he had come from within the department.
Right.
So, Bradshaw came to me and says, why don't we team up? He says, but I have to be the sheriff.
Okay.
And so, I agreed. He didn't know the people I knew. I knew everybody in the county.
Right.
So, I helped him. I worked very hard on his campaign, and he was elected. So he asked me to return and be his number 2 guy.
Okay.
So I went back, and the title was colonel to begin with, and then he changed the title to chief deputy.
Okay. So how long were you the chief deputy for?
16 years.
Wow.
The number 2 guy for 16 years. So,
Wow. And now you're running against him.
yes.
Okay. So explain that to our audience and how did that come about, that whole scenario?
Well, we had some plans, and
Right.
the plans fell through on his behalf, and I said okay, but I continued the work and support him,
Right.
and remained loyal, and he kind of went off in a different direction, and there were some things that happened. He became very close to a couple of guys that went in a whole different direction that I believed in. Because I believed in community. I
Right.
believe in
That's
community.
right.
I believe in empowering the people who live in those neighborhoods.
Makes sense.
Giving kids a chance, because if
Right.
kids have nothing but role models as drug dealers, I mean, what
Right.
chance does that kid have? You got to get rid of them, and you got to put in positive role models, and work with their parent or parents.
Right.
And the sad thing is, there's a lot of them have only a parent.
Yeah.
So
That is sad.
they're looking to someone to attach themselves with.
Right.
I learned that in my master's of social work degree, that kids who make it generally attach themselves to a positive mentor.
Right.
Whether it's a teacher, whether it's a coach, whether it's a policeman,
That's
or
true.
outside family member. That's what they need. And those kids blossom. And that's what we need to get back to. And,
I agree.
community programs, SWAT teams are important.
Right.
They're critical. You need to have a great SWAT team. But the SWAT team shouldn't be running the entire agency.
Right.
It's a unit that's important.
Right.
Community policing is a unit. You should have that philosophy throughout, but not all the cops believe in it. There's a lot of traditional policing where they just hook them and book them, nail them, jail them.
Right.
One of the things I learned that when you arrest somebody, take some time with them, make a friend.
Right. Yeah.
90% of the people I arrest were my friends afterwards. And,
Right.
And I still see them today, and they called me right up till I left to give me information on major cases.
Right.
But that's
Rapport is
what you need
everything.
to do.
Yeah, you need
take
rapport. I
time and
agree.
give people an opportunity to grow and have a chance.
Now, how could people get in touch with you? How could people support you? My understanding from talking to some of the deputies is you have a very positive, I would say that you have the majority of the support.
Well,
Without naming names or anything like that.
right. Well, I think time will tell.
Right.
I am being contacted by a lot of people that are inside that are very unhappy
Right.
with the actions of some of the people that the sheriff has become close to.
Yeah.
That's up to them. I mean,
Right.
that's the sheriff's mistake if
Right.
if he
Right,
allows that to happen. I believe in holding people accountable. I mean, when I was a captain, I read all the reports. I didn't read every little report that came through, but
Right.
I knew what was going on in my district. And you help deputies improve their writing skills.
Right.
If they're not doing the proper investigation on patrol, that means a detective has to come back in and start all over again. And they shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
So, we had something called CompStat, came out of New York. Bratton developed it. It was holding your commanders responsible for how they're addressing problems in their areas. I believe very strongly in that. But there was some guys that got embarrassed.
Right.
And, the next thing we know, sheriff did away with CompStat. So,
Well, let's talk about crime in the United States. I mean, but we're going to do that when we get back from this next commercial break.
okay.
Okay?
This message was brought to you by Warburg Equities and the Cricken Law Trust.
Hi, I'm Adam, an associate with the Cricken Law Trust. We're here to help you process money owed to you through the CARES Act. If your business employed 10 or more people and maintained payroll taxes through the 2021 shutdown, the Cricken Law Trust can help you get your money back. This money is yours, but if you don't apply now, you might lose this opportunity and it'll be gone forever. Contact us now. Go to www.my123erc.com. Now that's www.my123erc.com.
Text alert! Text alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Velati on the phone and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Velarde, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
You've been watching Meet the Experts with Mike Velarde. If you have any questions, call in at 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. Mike, we're going to ask you a couple of questions today. Today was a very unique day. They had hearings on Capitol Hill about the FBI. And we see crime skyrocketing in our major cities, New York, Chicago, like it hasn't happened since the 70s. And I'd like to get your take on, first of all, the hearings that happened in Washington with the FBI and whether they're biased or not. Obviously, the Department of Justice pulled the plug on the Hunter Biden investigation because they had an IRS whistleblower, which is obviously very unusual. So I want your take and your thoughts on what's going on nationally with law enforcement.
Well, I think ethics and integrity are so important when it comes to the job. And, you know, when you have FBI agents that are trying to do their job, and I think the average hardworking FBI agent is not happy at all with what is going on in Washington, D.C. You know, you can't let the politicians come in and control your investigations.
Right.
Myself,
Right.
I have gotten phone calls from people that were arrested, you know, from their family members saying, "Oh, you got to get them out." Well, that, you know, there was a chief in Boca that pulled a guy out from a booking. You know what? What happened to that chief? He lost his job. You don't do things like that.
Right.
You know, you just don't do it. And for what's going on in Washington, they need to straighten that out. You know,
Destroys the credibility of the agency.
oh, of course,
That's what it
of course,
does.
because you know it's like one cop does something bad.
Right, exactly.
The
Bad cop.
media just, you know, they
Exactly,
swarm on
they
it,
swarm on it.
and you think that all the cops are bad. I'm telling you, there's bad
True.
cops,
There is. Right.
but the majority of cops are
good.
just pretty good working people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they may not always be the hardest working people,
Right,
but
right.
they do their jobs, they respond to the calls,
Yep.
and they just want to go home to their families at the end of the day.
That's the key, right? You
But
gotta-
to have somebody interfere with what you're doing is totally inappropriate.
What do you think about the lawlessness in these cities, especially the Democratic-controlled ones? New York, Chicago, L.A., San Francisco. They're allowing them to steal up to like $1,000 worth of stuff. How do you have a society without law and order? It's terribly, it's unfair for the victims. And what business is going to stay open knowing that you're going to get looted every day?
There's closing grocery stores, they're closing drugstores. You know, I have two adult children. You know, I gave rules to my children.
Of course, right,
If-
exactly.
You know, if they committed a violation, I held them accountable.
Right.
You know, I do that with my own deputies. When I was a supervisor, you know, if I didn't hold my children accountable, they're going to get in more trouble and more trouble
Right.
and more trouble because there's no consequences.
Right.
There has to be consequences to allow people, and there's a faction of society that will always do that. And sometimes good people, we even get swept up in that because it becomes a way of life.
Well, exactly. I mean, you can't allow lawlessness to continue.
No.
It's just like if you had a bad cop, like we saw in Minnesota, where that one particular cop killed that guy and ended up in jail for like 40 years. If you don't put training in place, and I know you would, you've actually gotten the deputies training programs for
Crisis intervention training.
crisis interventions training.
I
Exactly.
brought CIT, they call it.
Yes.
I brought the first class to the sheriff's office. And that's a 40-hour block of training. So, you know, we're required to do all kinds of training every year.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
you know, when you start running short of manpower. So to get guys somewhat educated, I brought in what was called mental health first aid. And it kind of taught them how to deal with people that have mental
Health
illness
aid, right.
crises, you know, autistic children, and it gave them some ideas on what they can do to minimize the situation and control the situation. So I did that, and I went to the very first class. I sat through the very first class.
You know what? It's sometimes it's needed. I was a 9/11 responder. I was at the Staten Island dumps looking for body parts. Now, when you see pieces of people, it sticks with you.
Yeah.
I ended up getting sick, very sick from it. But you know, it affects you. It affects you mentally. That kind of trauma is not normal trauma.
Right. Well, one of the things we developed was a behavioral services unit. And we had deputies and employees that developed substance abuse problems. And we were going to them quietly, getting them in the treatment, getting them the help they needed. And we were told to stop. Send those people to risk management. If they come to you, take them to risk management. They are not going to go to risk management.
Right.
You know, but quietly,
Right.
they will get help. And I can't tell you how many people we help under those circumstances.
Wow.
The behavioral services unit.
We got 1 minute left.
Okay.
I want to give you enough time so you can give everybody, tell us why you're running, why they should vote for you, how they can get in touch with you, how they could support you in the last minute.
Okay. Well, I think my history speaks for itself. I'm a community person.
Yep.
I believe in community. I believe in helping others, like I was helped when I, needed help, and I've never forgotten that. I think I'm a better choice. Rick and I were friends for 50 years. We've gone in different directions, and I think I'm the better choice. I believe in community and fairness for employees, fairness in promotions, fairness in
the last 10 seconds, just tell us how they can get in touch with you, because we're out of time.
Okay, michaelgauger.com is a website that's up right now. If you want to see my history, go to michaelgauger.com. And very shortly, I'll have a website up. So
Excellent. Thank you for watching. We're out of
Thank you.
time. You were a great guest, and we wish you the best. We're behind you.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Experts with Mike Velarde. For more information, contact Mike at 888-994-4995, Studio A. Join us next time for another exciting show.